Hello everyone, Casey here and welcome back to the Baking Analyst channel. On this channel, we cover economics, cryptocurrencies, personal finance, and yield farming, which has been a focus so far for the duration of this channel. So let's just roll with it. If you're completely new to yield farming, I actually have a free online course on Skillshare. You can access that with a free trial of Skillshare down in the link below. You can cancel any time, and the course learning materials will come at no cost to you whatsoever. So the first thing that I would like to say for today is congratulations to anyone holding one Harmony 1 coins or farming the one token in a pool, because we're up pretty much 30% this week. In today's video, we will be covering updates to the Harmony 1 ecosystem, updates to the Cronos ecosystem that is coming up very soon, as well as a surprise from Cosmos. So let's get a few small pieces of news out of the way first. ATOM, or Cosmos, is launching farming incentives on their Gravity DEX platform. If you're unfamiliar with ATOM or Cosmos, the ecosystem is basically a group of separate blockchains that come together via the Cosmos Hub. You're able to transfer tokens from one blockchain to another via the Cosmos Hub. So on a Cosmos mainnet, the decentralized exchange and automated market maker of choice is the Gravity DEX. And Gravity DEX actually launched their front end, Emaris, a few months ago. Right now they seem to be about to launch this new farming program that rewards yield farmers in ATOM, which is by no means a shitcoin. I mean, ATOM is an established project, so this is actually really interesting, and it just came in today. So something that we should definitely keep our eye on. However, this is not the highlight of today's video, since this seems to be rather far out and they are still voting on it. Moving on, we have Cronos updates. So as we all know, the CRO mainnet, or Cronos from crypto.com, is launching basically slightly after next week. They're launching on the 19th of October for their mainnet, and decentralized apps are about to come to the mainnet itself, allowing for potential yield farming opportunities. One of such opportunities that emerged is VVS Finance. VVS Finance appears to be something that is similar to your Pancake Swap and all the farms that we've covered so far. There's a decentralized exchange. There seems to be a liquidity pool and farm, which is basically a yield farm that we're used to, and your single staking pools. And they even already have their Twitter page set up, so you can go there and take a look if that interests you. Given that the launch of an EVM chain or smart contracts has seen increases in the price of the native token, you might consider picking up some CRO for yourself. And what better way to pick up some CRO for yourself than with one of these really nice Crypto.com metal debit cards. I know I keep shilling them on this channel, but it's just really so nice to use. And you get cash back and you get free Spotify and Netflix if you upgrade to the higher tiers. And if you use the link down below, you get a free $25, just putting that in there. Anyway, Cronos, exciting news. But if you want to pick up some CRO for yourself, you can already start earning pretty attractive yields on that CRO. And that will be through the Osmosis DEX. The Osmosis DEX is part of the Cosmos ecosystem. You can bridge your tokens from the CRO chain because the CRO mainnet interfaces with the Cosmos Hub, and transfer them over to the Osmosis blockchain pretty simply. If you like a tutorial on that, please leave a comment down below. I'll try to make one soon, especially when the Cronos mainnet launches. And as you can see here, in the pool section of Osmosis, you can find that, lo and behold, there is a CRO pool and CRO Osmo pool. So you can choose whether you like ATOM better or Osmo better. Both of these are native tokens to their respective blockchains, and earn pretty high yields of 102 and 190% APR respectively. So that's something to consider if you're into holding CRO and are anticipating this price increase. Now we move on to the main meat of today's video, which is the Harmony 1 updates. Apart from the fact that Harmony 1 has simply been going to the moon recently, we have been seeing some slowdowns in yield farming yields on Harmony 1. This is likely in part due to the huge amount of liquidity flowing into the DeFi Kingdom's ecosystem. 102 million. That probably makes DeFi Kingdoms one of the largest, if not the largest, liquidity pool on the Harmony 1 blockchain, surpassing even SushiSwap, ViperSwap, loot swap, and the rest. So this is really interesting, and there is a reason for that I will be going into later, a possible reason for that. But the problem with all this TVL coming over, and especially if they're not buying up the native token, Jewel, is that the APRs have come down considerably. So right now, 15% are unlocked. And if we look at our 1 USDC pools or 1 BUSD pools, they're hovering around 430 to 450%. So that will correspond to about 60% unlocked, which is way below our original ideal target of a weighted average of 130%. But there's a solution to that, we'll cover that later. Elsewhere, the valleys isn't doing too great for yield farming either. So all these yields are wrong, by the way, but the Amethyst token has basically fallen from 1 cent, almost 1 cent, to 0.2 cents. So that has decimated the yield, because yield is a function of the farm token price and the total value locked. So if total value locked remains the same and the farm token comes down in price by 80%, your yield basically comes down by 80%. Last I checked, the 1 ETH pool is doing only about 60% as well. So we clearly had to move that somewhere else. And that happened today. Today, there was the launch of farming on the Artemis Protocol. The Artemis Protocol is at its core a crowdfunding platform or a launch pad. You can think of it as a platform where you provide tokens, you pledge tokens, in this case, a pair of the farm token as well as Harmony 1, in order to be eligible to participate in crowdfunding projects and token allocation pre-sales. And that will be coming to the Artemis pad. So let's go over to the place that we're really interested in, the yield farm. And that can be found under Artemis Earn. The Artemis Earn currently has about 4 pools. They've just launched today, really, and they're doing pretty high APRs. I've just checked this, putting a small proportion of my portfolio into the 1 UST pool, and the APR does seem to be accurate as far as I can tell. So 1053% APR means you're getting 2.89% per day, which means it'll take about 2 days to recoup the deposit fee and then some. So in a sense, getting in early is kind of important, because as more total value locked enters this pool, these APRs are likely to come down, as will be the case if people start selling their MIZ tokens. So let's go over the Artemis protocol in a bit more detail. Let's go over to their documentation, shall we? So looking at the tokenomics of Artemis protocol. The Artemis protocol uses a governance token called MIZ or MIS. And the tokenomics are pretty interesting, because you see that the emission is pretty constant, meaning that you won't have what you see in ViperSwap or LootSwap, where once the emission rate comes down significantly. This is similar to in an economy, where if the interest rate were to drop drastically, holding that country's currency becomes less attractive, as you can find better yields on your cash somewhere else, and therefore the currency depreciates. That is what we have seen in ViperSwap, and that is what we've seen in LootSwap. But anyway, this emission schedule looks pretty stable, like it's just 4 per block all the way until week 9, and then it drops slightly to 3 per block. So it is unlikely that there will be some sort of emission reduction induced dump of the MIZ token. Most of the selling pressure from the MIZ token is likely to come from people selling their unlocked MIZ tokens in order to take profits and recompound them into farms. So that's always a good thing. At least we know that the tokenomics are stable and we can predict where the APRs are going. We don't need to keep shifting our tokens around. And this is actually a benefit that I talked about that applies to DeFi kingdoms as well, with a stable unlocked yield. So we mentioned earlier that Artemis Protocol is at its heart a launch pad for different projects. So we have the Artemis pad, where people have to buy the MIS token, pair it with Harmony 1, and place that in a liquidity pool in order to be eligible to participate in token pre-sales. So this creates a use case for MIS, in that firstly, people will have to buy MIS to participate in these pre-sales if there's some good projects coming up. And if you've seen other projects on other blockchains such as Polkastarter on Polkadot, you will know that for some people, knowing which project to invest in or get the pre-sale token from could be highly profitable. I myself haven't tried it, And of course, nothing should be taken as financial advice. What we're really interested in is the Artemis Earn program. So earlier on, we covered that the emissions would largely be stable. Let's have a look at the other criteria of whether this farm is eligible for us to put our money into. For now, as far as I can tell, the MIS token from yield farming is completely unlocked, meaning you can just sell it off as you want. And that would mean that this APR that we see here is the APR you're getting, and you can input this into any compound interest calculator and calculate how much you're making per day, which is really good for us. Secondly, deposit fees. If you're putting your money in MIS pools, then there's no deposit fee. But as I always say, a farm token, try not to buy it too early, because usually what happens is that people ape into these farms, they ape into these high APR MIS farms, pushing the MIS price up. And then once demand starts petering out, people start selling their MIS profits, and then price starts coming down again, and you get hit by a pretty serious impermanent loss. So we're really realistically only looking at this one UST pool here on this channel. This one UST pool is currently doing 1,055% APR, which earlier on we figured out would be able to pay off this 4% deposit fee in 2 days. I would say it is worth getting into at this level of APR, especially if you can afford to leave it there for more than 2 days. In terms of rug pull risk, the Artemis Protocol is apparently developed by the same team at the Valleys, and that hasn't rugged so far. So that is a good sign. The second good sign is that if you go into their about and you go into their code, you can go and verify for yourself. You can go into the contracts page, and then you go into the contracts folder and click MasterChef V2, and then you can find that the migrator is not present. We see that yes, this contract is ownable, meaning that there is possibility of the developer being able to access the liquidity in this MasterChef contract. However, supposedly it is going to be transferred to a government smart contract, which is essentially renouncing ownership by the developer. That is one risk that I would say still exists for now. Until that changes, exercise caution, don't ape all your money into this project. Then you also see that there is a time lock, which means that, for any transaction that is made by the developer, let's say to emergency withdraw all the liquidity, then there will be at least a 6-hour time delay, as far as I can tell, before that transaction actually goes through, allowing people to withdraw their funds and panic sell. So how to start farming on the Artemis Protocol? Well, the Artemis Protocol actually makes use of liquidity pool tokens, or LP tokens, from DeFi kingdoms. Yes, DeFi kingdoms. So this is probably the reason, or one of the reasons, why liquidity has just been pouring into DeFi kingdoms. Because you have platforms like this that don't get people to form their own LP tokens on their own platforms and have to make do with small bases of liquidity. They instead encourage people to place their liquidity in a concentrated source for liquidity. This makes the DEX on DeFi kingdoms function more efficiently because there is less slippage, and it also creates less work for the devs that work on this project. So because they use LP tokens from DeFi kingdoms, what you can do is you swap half your tokens into one and half your tokens into UST on DeFi kingdoms and just add them to the pool. So we can just go ahead and supply this token on DeFi kingdoms, and then once we've gotten our LP tokens, we can come over here and we see that we have 26 UST liquidity pool tokens available. Then we just hit max and deposit the LP tokens on Artemis, and it's through. One other thing to note about the Artemis protocol is the peculiarities about how to sell your MIS tokens. So because MIS is literally so new that they don't even have a vfat listing as of the time of this video, you will actually have to do something a bit more complex. You have to go to DeFi kingdoms and enter the token address of MIS in order to add it to your token list so that you can sell that token and then sell it back to one or something. So how do you do that? You go to any of these Miz pools. You go to Miz1, for example, you click get LP tokens, and then you see this first token. So MIS is on top here and 1 is at the bottom. All you do, because MIS is at the top, is to take a look at this address bar. you see that this 0x address, that's the token address that you want to copy. The first one is the one on top, which is MIS. And you want to copy this and then go into the marketplace at DeFi Kingdoms, add this token to the list. I've already added it over here, but you will have to just paste it in. And then you would be able to, in theory, swap MIS for 1. As you can see, we can just go ahead and perform that swap, and we get our Harmony 1 tokens in a couple of seconds. So this has been a brief overview of the Artemis Protocol. It's really such a new project that we'll just have to see how it develops, how the incubator works, and how the launchpad goes. We'll be keeping an eye on it while we also move some funds over to Cronos and maybe even Atom, but interesting project nonetheless. So I hope this video has been useful to you and informative, and always remember to farm safely. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.